Priscilla Block. Y'all be sure to check out Real Country Jukebox.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Real Country Jukebox Podcast with Raymond and James. Today's topic, what we're going to talk about, and he may explain it even a little bit better than I do. Today's topic, what we're going to talk about is songs that remind us of ourselves. And his may be more on point. Mine are songs that remind me of myself, and maybe not perfect, but to a degree, remind me of myself or somehow relate to how I live or how I want to live or so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's good. You want to start off?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
The first song I've gotten is absolutely nothing like what it sounds like, and those of you who have heard the song, you'll know this, is a song by Joe Nichols called Freaks Like Me. And what it means is actually the opposite of what you would think it would mean. It's pretty much saying like a lot of the things that are popular in today's world, and they're not all bad, but a lot of things that are popular in today's world, a lot of the things that have kind of gone by the wayside, a lot of things that, or maybe new school versus old school, those of us who maybe are old souls or still do things like the old way or whatever, could be considered freaks. And the song is kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's called Freaks Like Me. For instance, it starts out, I always hold the door for a lady. I don't care if she's 4 or if she's 80. And he's in one line of the song, I think it's the second verse, he says, give me old boots and old hats and old guitars, that sort of thing. Listen to it. It's your typical standard Joe Nichols song. And Freaks Like Me, just outside the in crowd. I've never considered myself part of the in crowd, never really will. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But Freaks Like Me is actually the first song that came to mind when Raymond chose this topic. And that's what I got for Freaks Like Me, Joe Nichols.
I'm going to check that hat. Never heard it. You know, it reminded me of Old Hat by Jeff.
Very much like that.
The one that John Party covered.
Yes.
Jeff, what is his last name?
What is Jeff's last name?
Hall? No.
He plays in Eric Church's band.
Jeff Hyde.
Jeff Hyde,
Yeah.
thank you.
I've got more than him. I don't know how many of these we'll do. It's kind of starting to rain on us and stuff. But so I might not say all mine, but one I have that if I don't get any of them done from getting rained out or whatever, I have to put I Wouldn't Have It Any Other Way by Aaron Tippin. To me, that is, if there was one song that could single up me and how I feel on every base, it would be that one. And I'm going to pair it with I Got It Honest and You Got to Stand for Something. Those three songs to me they're kind of a lot alike.
Yeah.
But the reason why I Wouldn't Have It Any Other Way stands out is because there's one line in that song that you could put on my headstone because I live by it, I breathe by it, and you know, if anyone countered me on that, I'd like to know a situation when I didn't so I could correct it. But it's where he says, sticking to my guns, can't be sold or bought, holding to my honor no matter what the cost. I love that. And
Yeah.
You know, and I put a couple notes because there was a couple things I thought of I didn't want to forget.
And immediately when you said I wouldn't want it any other way,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have it any other way, I immediately thought of I Got It Honest. They are so similar.
Yeah, and sometimes you can get them mixed up. They would actually make one just great song.
They
period.
would.
And one thing I thought of is you know, when I was a kid, I believe what you feed yourself mentally can kind of you can kind of become that if you're not careful. Or sometimes it's a good thing, whether it's reading the Bible or, you know, a bunch of R-rated movies, for example. But, you know, when I was in, I'm going to say probably about the 3rd grade, I had a Sega Genesis. And I just remember playing that, I might mess this up a little bit, but I'm going to guess NFL 95. It had Troy Aikman on the front. And I was never a big gamer, but every time I would play that game, I would have, the album's called Aaron Tippin Greatest Hits and Then Some is what it was called. I just got it from Santa. I got the Sega Genesis, the Aaron Tippin Greatest Hits from Santa. And I just remember having a TV on mute and just letting that album play from 1 to 10 or whatever.
Best Christmas ever.
Man, it to me, it's like, you know, I was feeding my mind of all this, like, good, wholesome American traits that people don't have nowadays because they turn on the radio and it's Demi Lovato or something.
Right.
But you know, if like You've Got to Stand for Something should be people's alarm clock. Like
It should be.
You know,
I don't know how you could disagree with anything in that song.
no. So anyway, I just a whole lot of stuff Aaron Tippin does isn't my favorite, but those three, along with Working Man's PhD, is up there also. Those four could be like just my theme songs. I love them all. And I'll end it with this, the Aaron Tippin thing. A parenting hack for any of you that have young kids or don't have one yet. If you take the baby mobile that goes over the crib, take off the little stuffed animals and put like some tools up there, and then take out that little nursery rhyme and put Aaron Tippin songs, he'll grow up to fix your truck. I really believe that.
I love it.
But I'll let you carry on.
Floating This Creek by Luke Bryan
is that is a good
one that easily comes to mind for me, because I have been known to get up between 3 and 4 in the morning to get down to Wilmington. That's where I like to go lately, to get down to Wilmington. Get up at 3 or 4 in the morning, get down to Wilmington and try to get my kayak in the water. Where I put my kayak in is not your typical launch. For those of you that know about stuff like that, there's some certain things I like to see on this creek, Hewlett's Creek in Wilmington. And the place you put your kayak in is just not an ideal place. So you basically have to stop on the side of the road, put the kayak in, and then drive about a mile down the road to park and walk. You get your exercise in, then walk all the way back. So you walk in about a mile, and then get in the kayak, and so on and so forth. But like I said, there's a particular reason I like to go there. There's a lot of filming locations and stuff I can see on the creek, and I just enjoy doing that. And you have to time it out for the tide and that sort of thing. But I like to go there, and so if I leave early enough in the morning, like I said, 3, 4 in the morning, and I get on down there and I make time to make that walk and launch it and all that sort of stuff, I can get down there and get in the water by like 6:45ish, so that most of the time the tide will be high enough, because that creek gets really, really low, and sometimes you just get stuck and you can't move. But Floating This Creek reminds me of that, because I started doing that a lot, about once a month. And this song just started out this morning at first light, had a biscuit on my way down. And it's the simple things like that, because it's not like for a long time when I hit the road to do this, and then it reminds me of me, because it's light probably about the time I get in the water, and then I stop at Bojangles to get that biscuit on the way down. That always hits the spot. And I mean, just every line in that song, just now I'll draw a blank, not be able to remember them all, but just got nothing to do, got nothing but time, got nothing to do. You got to get back to work eventually, but you got this day off, and you're just floating this creek, taking it in. It's just a really, really good day on the water. And that song just makes me think of that trip that I take about once a month. Sometimes I'll venture out and go to Southport, or I've even taken it down to the OBX and things like that. But for the most part, I like this little creek in Wilmington. And that song just always reminds me of that. And I always listen to it on the way down there.
That is a good song. That came out about the same time as Bill Dance. Luke, man, a lot of and I used to love Luke Bryan when he first came out. But then his music got very radio friendly. But once in a while, he'll have an album with 2 or 3 solid songs on it still.
And that's exactly what that one is. That and Bill Dance.
Yep.
You hit the nail on the head, man. I think it was either you or Keith Pridgeon who might be listening to this. One of y'all told me about that, because I don't listen to a lot of Luke Bryan anymore.
Yeah.
And one of y'all told me, hey, check out Floating This Creek and Bill Dance. And it was one of you two. Yeah. And I started listening to it, and I love both of those songs.
They are good. A couple of mine, and another thing too, when I wrote mine down, if I had multiple songs by the same artist, I'm just going to kind of say them together for the sake of time.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I got People Like Me and Me Being Me by Red Akins. Me Being Me, really, to tell you the truth, the song's kind of cliche. It don't have a lot of story or even meaning to it, but everything in that song is just, it's like he wrote it for me.
Yeah.
I love that from start to finish. And it's very short. It's like 2 minutes, 20 seconds top. Song's over. And he don't really say a whole lot, but everything he says is spot on for me. So,
and you know what? Speaking of that, though, neither one of us like things that are too cliche. That's the okay kind of cliche, because, like you said, it's simple and it describes you to a T, like 100%.
Yeah.
Both of those songs. So if it's cliche and it's true, that kind of just makes the cliche disappear, and it's legit.
Yeah, I mean, and for people that have heard the song, then they know the lyrics. If they haven't, I recommend you check them out. But like, there's one that's so simple. It's like, you might see me in my camouflage hat riding through town with a dog in the back. Just very simple,
Right.
But I love that song, and People Like Me. That song's great too, and I just love that. We don't smile and say yes, and we all know it's BS. That
Yeah, and
That's me to a
You
T.
won't beat the Red Akins version of that, but the William Michael Morgan version is really good too. It's not Red Akins, but it's good.
It's funny because I'm corny. Every time we do one of these, I make a playlist in my phone where I can listen to the album to and from work. And I had to download the William Michael Morgan version because the Red Akins one went on Amazon Music.
Right.
So I'm gonna get up with that Jeff Bezos guy. I'm gonna text him when this is over and ask him like why ain't he up there.
You should.
Yeah.
Next one I got is Craig Morgan. That's what I love about Sunday.
Oh man, that's a good song.
I can't relate to every single thing in that song, but that song's really cool to me because I can relate to so much of it. You know, every one of us knows that mean little freckle-faced kid that would come to church wherever you went to church at. There's the Martins walking in with that mean little. Everybody knows you. If you grew up in church, you know these couples and their habits and the good things and even sometimes the bad things, and you just know this stuff and just that's what I love about Sunday. Cat napping on the porch swing, just Amazing Grace. Everything about Sundays and going home and changing clothes and relaxing. My whole life I've done that. Growing up, we got up, we went to church, we ate, and then we relaxed the rest of the day. And even as an adult, I still do that. So that's been I'm sure I'll do it to the day I die. So that's what I love about Sundays. Just reminds me of Sundays in the South Shenandoah.
Yeah, that is a good one. My next one is, and this one's funny because I liked this album when it first came out. It was something different. I thought it was a change for the guy, but there was one song on the album I wouldn't hear, and it's actually the only one that made this list because the song title I could not get by. But Thomas Rhett, You Heard, and you're the one that told me, you're like, you might want to give it a chance. You might like it, and I love that song.
Yeah.
It starts out with that harmonica, and then like we were talking about the other day, he went in the song. He went from his wife, his career, to his kid, and basically he's just like talking to God about how anyway the things he thinks ain't going his way, God's making it work for him, and it's working out perfect. He just needs to wait a minute,
right,
and let God do his thing. So
I remember telling you about that song.
Yeah, and I'm glad I took your word on it, listened to it, because I love that song.
Yeah, because I would not naturally, if I saw a song called You Heard, that's just not something I would listen to.
Me neither.
Next one I got is, this one kind of relates a lot to the last one I just said about That's What I Love About Sunday, but Home by Joe Diffie. That song just reminds me of growing up. It reminds me, there's a lot of stuff in that song that, home was a place where Mom would hang out the clothes, and what's the line about with my daddy there in the easy chair and supper on the stove and all that. That's just, that's probably most of us, but that whole song just reminds me of Stokes, North Carolina, and growing up.
That is a great song, man. And Joe Diffie has so many good ones. My next one is Whistling Dixie by Randy Houser. And the first time I even heard Randy Houser, we went to go see him in Winterville at the Watermelon Festival. I never even heard of him, and I was blown away. I thought he was awesome. And he came along at a time where, and I like to use these guys as references because I still like them, but their music is hit or miss now. But in 2005, 2006, that era, when I was like still a kid, graduating high school, whatever, Jason Aldean and Luke Bryan's music was spot on for me at that time in my life. And their music also got into where you don't know which song you're hearing because they all sound the same. They're all talking about the same things. And then Randy Houser hit the scene a couple years later, like maybe 4 or 5 years later, with country music that was talking about the country stuff that some of us were doing, but weren't pretty little things around a tailgate and bonfire and all that crap. And I used this song as a reference because there's one where he says, I like catfish cooking on the creek bank, the kind you can't find in the city. When I was in high school, me and my brother used to farm with my uncle. And during the day, we'd farm and stuff. That night, we had a 14-foot John boat. Man, me, him, and my uncle, we would pull that boat to all different ponds. We pull it through the woods, like drag it with a rope through the woods to get to certain ponds we wanted to hit up, man. Gig frogs. And we had one at the front with a light, one with a gig, and then the one in the back doing the paddling. And we would have so many frogs. I don't want to give any numbers because I don't know what the legal limit is. But the next day on the river, we would have it set up where we had like 6 or 8 bottom rigs just catching cats and rock we be frying them frog legs, cooking catfish, rock, and my grandparents own an awesome restaurant a couple buildings down from there. We were getting herring, and man, every time I hear that, I like catfish cooking on a creek bank. You can't find in the city. I just think that's a different side of country that people don't sing about a whole lot.
That's right.
But a lot of us live it.
That's right.
And I just think about, frog gigging and then bottom fishing for catfish the next day. It was just a whole weekend of just a good time.
Yeah.
So I love Whistling Dixie by Randy Houser.
Another one I love is Water by Brad Paisley, and I'll say a little bit about this one. That song starts out, inflatable pool full of dad's hot air. I was 8 years old, splashing everywhere. That song is very much like me in ways. I love the water. Obviously, that's what the song is talking about. But from the time I grew up, we had those little kiddie pools. And then as we got older, growing up, we had the big in-ground pools. And we were members at Green Acres Campground the whole time I grew up. And they had 2 big swimming pools right there on the campground you could use. And we would fish in the pond out there. Grew up fishing in the pond down the road from the house. And then as we got older, it turned into Atlantic Beach on senior skip days from school. And even first 2 or 3 years I was working out of school, we at least once a week would go down to Atlantic Beach with our boogie boards and we'd spend all day on the water. And now, growing up, Daddy had boats too. And now it's gotten to the point where, for a couple years I would go to Southport maybe once a month and just enjoy the water out there. And now, like I talked about in the earlier song, I like to take my kayak down to Wilmington, and I do that about once a month. So between pools, ponds, creeks, I've always had some kind of relationship with the water. And most of them, Brad Paisley talks about spring break, and stuff like that, going to doing different stuff. This song, just everything. And we used to take guy trips to Myrtle Beach. We did that for 6 or 7 years in a row. There's so many different ways you can enjoy the water, whether it's pools, creeks, lakes, rivers. And I mean, my whole life I've been involved in that. So this song might be my favorite one that I even mentioned on the list. Just all the different ways to spend time on the water.
That's a good one. I like it for sure. My next one is When the Credits Roll by George Strait. Have you heard that?
I just think of Cowboy Rides Away when he says that, but I haven't heard that actual song.
When the Credits Roll is phenomenal. I hate when I start telling songs and put a couple lyrics out there in case people haven't heard it, because I don't want to bore people to death. But since you haven't heard it, I'll tell you, the chorus goes, when the credits roll and the show is over, and I've seen all the parts I played, get a glimpse of my soul up on that screen. I only hope I can say I was a little less villain, a little more hero when the credits roll. I just think like that's so deep, because it's kind of like, but I mean, we're all going to meet our maker one day, and he's going to show you the good and the bad, and
that's true.
Where do you want to be up there?
That's right.
And I like the way that he whoever wrote that song did a heck of a job, because they very it's very.
I would
well
automatically,
written.
with George Strait, I would automatically assume it was Dean Dillon, because I think he wrote 75% George. So who knows though?
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's a pretty new. It's on the Love Is Everything album, I think.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but anyway,
newer stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got Missing by William Michael Morgan. That song is cool because I love to go missing. And if you listen to the song and see exactly what he's talking about, it might be a beach, it might be out in the country, it might be here, it might be there. But like I said before, about once a month I'll take a day trip. And for the longest time, I would take day trips to Chapel Hill. And now it's Wilmington, Southport, New Hanover County. I've taken day trip to the Outer Banks. I love, getting away from work, getting away from road trips, clear my head. Go out there and clear your head, go out to a body of water, go to a ball game, whatever. The destinations I just mentioned. It's just good for the mind, good for the soul. And I mean, it's just good to get away and go missing, as he talks about in that song. I can definitely relate to that.
I love it. And I think most people will agree with you on that. I know I do, for sure. My next one is Dark Side by Eric Church. I don't want to sit up here and sound like a tough guy. Listen to the song and make your own thing. But anyway, I feel like I relate to that heavily.
Yeah.
And while I'm on Eric Church, I've also got Hold My Own. In the song, he's basically talking about being with his wife and his kids, and that's his favorite place to be. And he makes several comments about blocking out all the noise. And you know, the place that I feel the happiest at really is at my house with my wife and son.
It's the way it's supposed to be.
And the last, and then while I'm on Eric Church kick, if I can just continue with these
Roll
two.
on, man.
Alabama. I got How About You by Eric Church, and I Love Your Love the Most by Eric Church. Are two that I really relate to, because I definitely agree with everything and How About You on a level way up to here.
Me too.
And the I Love Your Love the Most just kind of reminds me of, you know, that's a tribute to my wife, wherever she's at. I'm just messing. She's over there because she's a fan.
Yeah.
But
Gold circle seats.
yeah. But anyway, yeah. I like all of those by Eric Church. Have you got any more?
I got one more I'm gonna talk about,
Okay.
but if you got something, roll on while you hot with it.
Well, I've got A Country Boy Can't Survive by Hank Jr. I could not imagine making this list not putting that song up there.
Yeah.
I've got a new song. I'm glad I had this one up here. When we were at the Opry, we heard about Chris Janson coming out with a new album, and I loved it. It's very it's called Outlaw Side of Me, and it's very upbeat and just full blast. But my favorite song up there, and I've heard every song up there one time except for this one because it's on repeat, and I love it. And it's the slowest song up there. It's called Days in the Field. It reminds me so much of me and Liam because he's basically just talking about how, like, his whole life all he's ever wanted as a little boy to do these things, and the little boy is loving them. And when I say these things, it says in hunting and scouting and just like being out in the woods. And Liam, from the end of September to the beginning of May, he's in overalls, and he's got them from Carhartt to Walls to Dickies, like the whole 9 yards. And there's that one part of the song I just love where he said those two big 4T overalls. I'm like, man, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I love it. It's so good. And the whole album's good. I recommend y'all check it out. I never really knew about Chris Janson a whole lot. When I really became a big fan of his was last year. Him and Travis Tritt came out with one, which is also on this list, called Things I Can't Live Without. And it's basically just talking about, you know, things like going to the beach, going to the mountains, but his favorite thing at all, being at home with his wife and his kids. That's my favorite thing. You know, and just breakfast cooking and, you know, just the good stuff.
Easy life.
Yep.
And speaking of that Chris Janson album, it just dropped last week, but that thing is really, really good because, and it's high energy too. A lot of people don't come out with them high energy country albums anymore. It's very Hank Jr., Travis Tritt.
That's what
Like,
I love about
obviously
it.
he mentions Hank Jr. probably 478 times in the album, but then it's very Travis Tritt too, very early Travis Tritt.
Yeah, my only problem with that album is he mentioned Hank Jr. 478 instead of 479 times.
That's messed up, man.
Yeah, I didn't agree with that at all.
You'll have to come out with an album where you mention him 480 times.
I'm going to text him before I text Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
My next one is That Was Us by Riley Green and Jesse Alexander.
Jesse Alexander, I ain't heard that name in a long time, man.
To be honest with you, that's the only thing that I know that she does, and she sounded awesome with it.
Yeah.
That it starts out talking about little places that they've gone to, but then when he talks about That Was Us in a two-tone Chevy, when me and Stacy, my wife, first met, that's what I had, two-tone Chevy, and just everything about that whole song just reminds me of us when we first started dating.
Yeah.
And his newest song, Raised Up Right, that's a good song too. It just talks about, you know, well, being raised up right, like the way people should be raised up.
Right.
And I've got two more. You want me to go and knock them out, then you finish it?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Simple Man by Charlie Daniels.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, man.
I should have thought of that one.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like that should be a creative.
I agree with everything in that song.
Yeah, I feel like that should be something everyone should live by. And then I'm going to end it with What This World Needs Is a Few More Rednecks by Charlie Daniels. I agree with everything that's in that song.
I do too.
So, and basically, like I said on that, I believe it was the band's podcast. Or
And I'll say something else too, real quick, if you don't mind, about those two
fine.
songs. There's people that get aggravated and stereotype and do whatever they want to, and I'll stand by this. Those two songs you just mentioned, if the world was done that way, you'd have a whole lot less to worry about.
I agree. And the reason why I say it is because it's been done that way before, and things were better.
That's right.
And you know, Charlie Daniels is the kind of person, as far as like stereotypical, like the people that know Charlie wouldn't feel that way about him because they know he's just a good American guy. You know, that just I mean everything. It's like when he talks about the child molesters and the drug dealers and stuff, like that's the way I feel, and it should happen. And I don't care if you know if it isn't politically correct or not, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's right.
And I really feel like that song's a lot better than the Skinner one.
Light years ahead of it.
Yeah, and I love Skinner. Matter of fact, I like Skinner better than Charlie Daniels. But as far as comparing the Simple Man songs, that one just says so much more.
It does.
But anyway, I'll let you finish it off.
That's fine. The last one I got is Jason Michael Carroll. Jason Michael Carroll. That's All I Know. I like everything in that song too, because he basically starts out, I think honesty's right. I think, and this is very basic, but I mean, a lot of people aren't getting the basic. I think honesty is right. I think lying is wrong. I think Willie and Haggard wrote some awful good songs. He kind of bashes politics because I'm not big on politics. Just everything that Jason Michael Carroll, I don't know if he wrote that one or not, but everything he talks about in that song could be biographical as well. So I mean, there's just some good music out there, and that's what music is for. Is to, you know, you should be able to relate to it, and this is stuff that we relate to.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And if you notice too, the only I had a couple up there by some of our favorites that didn't make it, but you notice the one I had by George Strait was not his normal type stuff. I didn't have nothing up there by Alan Jackson. I wanted to put All American Country Boy, but if I kept right on, I'd end up having 35 songs up there.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, stuff like this, and to be completely honest, I could have filled up that binder with Ed Tippin, Red Akins, and Riley Green. That'd have been all up.
Yep.
Anyway,
what you see is what you get kind of guys.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of people I like to be around.
Yep. So well, we enjoyed it, y'all. Hope y'all did. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we hope to see y'all again next week.
Take care.